Spring, the season of hope, on new life, a new light after the cold, dark days of winter, and where better to find on promise than in a plantain. For this morning should be a plantain, quaint and softly green, wechty wi' pale stars of wild garlic growing by the waterside, wee gowns for till it takes us to tell us how summer will soon unwrap itself for the branches and shadows of this cool, fresh space. Here the sin travels natural new paths, scaling slow through barks of ancient oak, yinst hewn for battles and for boats, carrying the soils of ancient summers whenever trees were worshipped, deified, when solstice times brung offerings to the slow, dark kings of winter time that could make the sun stand still. Time runs here in summertime like sunlight, soft on clay, and all be soft and wild and green. To the plantain, all folks be this yin. We're all the same to the forest.
We're Bready Ulster Scots. We're from just between Londonderry and Strabane. We're an Ulster Scots organisation in a very rural community, but quite a fast-growing, ever-expanding organisation. I suppose we have a large variety of work. We focus on a Burns Festival every year. We have an education project with Highland dance, bagpipes and B-flat flute, who work in 17 schools weekly. We have lots of tuition and different events that go on throughout the year. And then we always finish our year off again with St Andrew's Festival. So Burns at the start of the year, St Andrew's at the end of the year, and a lot of busy times in between.
We were contacted by Bready Scots because they know that we have a terrific collection of Ulster Scots material here in the library, and also that we're very involved in the Ulster Scots community. And so in talking with Georgina, who's the festival coordinator, we were thinking about what kind of event would work here, and a poetry event, and just delighted to say we've got the Ulster Scots poetry writing competition, which has a poetry dimension. So we're very used to having the writing community here, and so it's partly to support them, but also it's a great way of representing Belfast and the kind of rich cultural and linguistic heritage here. And so for all the visitors who are coming in for the festival and the dance championships, and obviously the Linen Hall is a historic building and a historic institution, and you know, we have terrific collections, and it's a historic building for people to walk around and experience.
This is the last school day of June, and the summertime yard be's full. The men and women who youngst as wains scuffed and scowled their way through the years now hunt the shadowed nooks and crannies and walk under long, quiet trees, catched and held by thoughts of who this plain small space was once big enough to howl their every dream. Indoors, the twa old stoves sit like ancient beasts, yin at the front of each small classroom. Nae burning coals in their bellies the day, no fiery breaths to warm wee want their hands. They're squat and cowl and still. There be's coffee, tea and conversation now. The old dark desks be's empty, piled for nence long tables full of footery, sweet wee things wains aren't meant to eat. While the last 12, the young disciples of the day, slip frae room to room, their busy lugs listening to mony yarns as other folk talk of the space they once called their ain. The een o' half-mind wains look down frae photos gathered together in long neat rows on empty classroom walls. Young ghosts in faded colours called by simmers sae many years before. This was once a wee country school, now just a statistic, nothing more. But when the handbell is lifted and rung for the very last time, a golden peal raising sharp and aping through the afternoon sun o'er the classrooms, the hallway and the playground ayont, generations of children's faces lift and smile. I've lots of approaches to writing things. Sometimes I'm caught by a word and I go back into, because a lot of Ulster Scots is to do with, yes, capturing the moment, but it's also memory. So I'll pick up a word, and that word I just go, oh, that reminds me of such and such, and I'm off. Or I think about a subject that I want to write about, and because I write in both English and Ulster Scots, there are some things that I can only write in Ulster Scots because I need that visceral connection, and the language does that for me. So it can be inspiration, it can be an overheard conversation, which makes for very interesting writing. It can be memories as well, but it's also, I write about nature, I write about current affairs. I cover a whole number of subjects, but it's just a joy to write in Ulster Scots.
Arians, Themians, Nearians, Ferians, Goodians, Illians, friends or foeians. You dinna ken, for you canna ken, for you ain't gleek frae fear awa. You dinna ken, the heart or soul, and truth be told, you dinna ken at all. You ain't ken, when you truly ken, just as soon as ye all draw nigh. Frae Dottian, till Nudian, frae Donian, te Ossian.
I've always enjoyed stories, and I suppose I got to the point where I needed to write my stories down. I didn't go to university. I actually got an F in English at school, so writing definitely didn't come naturally. The process of writing didn't come naturally, so it was something I had to work on as I've gone through my life. But I really just love stories and then write them down, then poetry, and then presenting work, especially like presenting work and it's spoken, so you're actually able to hear the story and the inclination and the emotion that comes into it as well. So I would write children's stories, a lot of them based around Northern Ireland and Donegal, and then there's poetry work as well and short stories, and I just whatever sort of catches my attention. So I just like stories and then being able to write them. I enjoy days like this because when you read a poem, you need a spirit put into a poem, and sometimes I'm sure you've heard very famous poems being read, and somebody can bring it to life or somebody can kill it stone dead. So I always enjoy being able to read the poems myself, and then you're able to put the inclination of or the emotion that was in the poem as well. So I've always really enjoyed days like this, especially when you come to a historic building like the Linen Hall Library.
We are home to I think the kind of pillar of the collection really is the Andrew Gibson collection. Andrew Gibson was a former governor of the library, and the Gibson collection contains one of the largest collections of Burns and Burnsiana material outside of Scotland, and so that is really a pillar of what we hold here, and we have a lot of the writings through that collection from the period, and as I say, it's very rich and vibrant collection, and regularly consulted, and in fact we're here in the Governor's Room, which is where a lot of that material is held, and I say very fitting given the fact that Andrew Gibson was a former governor of the library. Terrific to have these wonderful collections of Ulster Scots writing and Ulster Scots material, but really what we want to do is to make them accessible to the public, and I suppose events like this allow people to find out a bit more about the collections. They allow people to hear current Ulster Scots poetry and writing, and we've got a vibrant programme of events covering all kinds of things, but really it's that kind of engagement with the collections and to I suppose a kind of cultural hub in the centre of the city where there are events, readings, access to books, access to newspapers, a cafe, a place of community and learning.
This year I was delighted to again write about nature and produce a piece called I Near Han, Always Close. We are so lucky to have the natural environment that we do here. And this is looking at the seasons going from the land to the sea. The watched-for light returns, a golden dawn shifts through the summer air. This be's a precious gift of light at the scraich o' day. These owl words, the forgotten yuns, were made for this. Small fields glow like jewels in the morning sun. We come to the edge of the island. The pulse of the ocean is what carries us here, when the season's fresh new light, echoing from the summertime moon, draws our een frae these soft lines of rippling silver right into the blue. We mine folk wha loved the land. They looked after fields and gathered in the harvests, waiting wi' care for the new growed green. This was their knack of knowing. O application, they marked the seasons and took heed of every year. This water carries our history and our memories, for it has brung us out and drawn us home. These waves howl the secret of the seasons. They are a balm in summertime, a rowling song, another world. They lift and rise, breaking on mountains soft and blue. This pulse that is the heartbeat of the world.
I was very lucky to go to a workshop at the Discover Ulster Scots Centre 6 years ago now. And at that point I realised I'd forgotten another language. Because I grew up, I'm 9-10 miles away from Achadui, really lovely broad Ulster Scots, spoken all around the area, and I put it away because in school you were told that it wasn't the proper way to speak. And a lot of the writers that I work with or that I connect with say exactly the same thing, and it's coming back to reclaim it, and then you realise how beautiful it is.
Crabby, what you doing, me pal? Climbing frae the peel, me pal? How can you do thon thing, me pal? We'll hate to pull you down, me pal. Dinna leave us now, me pal. Fi bucket is divine, me pal. Fi aim this peel, 'tis life, me pal. It saves me frae the world, me pal. Gaze fear me'r than deserve, me pal. Fi all your friends are here, me pal. We'll never let you gae, me pal. Unless you scuttle out, me pal. To lonely world beyond, me pal. Thon's the place you canna gae, me pal.
People maybe who haven't experienced Ulster Scots poetry before or spoken word, they may have misconceptions or preconceived conceptions, but as soon as they're able to hear the words spoken and the poems and just the cadence of the words, they really can become part of it. Over the last while, I've had some great experiences going places to do workshops and for Ulster Scots. Like we've been in the Irish medium schools. I'm having the greatest time with the kids, and they suddenly realise they recognise so many of the words. Like I'm learning from them, and they're learning from me. So it's a great experience. So it's something I really really enjoy. It's whenever people start hearing the words, and then they realise, oh, I actually know lots of those words, and it's part of everybody's identity here, and it's part of everybody's language. So it's something that I really appreciate, and something I really enjoy, like being able to share. Something that meant a lot to me, something that we weren't allowed to do much when we were at school, something we were strongly discouraged to do, and it's the way to speak, and we were corrected. So thankfully it's managed to survive, and maybe now it's getting a bit more acceptance and understanding where the words and the language actually came from and what it means to so many people.
As far as I can see, I think the Ulster Scots people are very, very creative. I specifically work with young Highland dancers, and I see that creativity all the time. I see new creative choreographies coming through all the time, and it's the same with these two writers that we have here today. So we're very, very privileged that these two wonderful artists, I suppose, have taken this opportunity, and yeah, we're very lucky to have all this talent.
Hame, the sound of childhood mornings. My mother shaking out the greishaks in the range as light spills into the kitchen like an early guest and the day gets underway. I sit at the same old table now and feel the day begin. Stirring this memory of language, buried things slowly rise. Dreich winter mornings kept in base as a wane scunnered.
I think it's a lovely chance for both Robert and I to share our words with folk who are, and we've chosen our work for people who are perhaps new to Ulster Scots. And the lovely thing is, certainly from all over this island, sometimes folk will hear you speak a word and they'll go, I used to use that. That's where the conversation begins, and that's where you get a connection.
This living tongue was one I once misplaced. Moving out into the world, I withdrew from it, laid it by. Now I am ready to taste these words again, set them loose upon my tongue. This newly remembered voice, my coming home.